Rick Messitt, everyone. Feeling Lucky Cypherpunk. Great title.
That's it.
Thanks,
That's
Rick.
it. Thanks, Luke. Hello, folks. I don't know about you guys, but I am feeling really lucky today. I feel lucky that I got to wake up here in beautiful Sofia, and I get to spend the whole day talking about Bitcoin with you lovely people. I feel lucky that we're on the cusp of separating money and state and winning back some of our precious freedoms and our sovereignty. And I feel especially lucky that Bitcoin is only 16 years old, and yet we're already winning. So today, I want to talk about luck. And by the end of today's talk, everybody here will get the chance to get lucky as well. So let's talk about luck. This is me and my dad, Colin, and boy, did we get lucky when we found Bitcoin. In fact, we were so lucky that we discovered Bitcoin back in 2013 when you could still get a whole coin for less than $100. And that gave us this wild opportunity to front-run the likes of Michael Saylor, Larry Fink, and the rest of Wall Street as Bitcoin scaled all the way past $100,000. And as you might expect, well, me and my dad did pretty well out of that. There is absolutely no denying that it's extremely lucky to find Bitcoin so early when it's so cheap. But here's the thing about luck. Luck only happens when opportunity meets curiosity, and that curiosity leads to action. The point I'm trying to make is that you can't get lucky by just being passive. If you sit back, good things don't just come to you. You have to play an active role. And that's exactly what me and my dad did. We dove down the rabbit hole and spent thousands of hours studying what Bitcoin was, how it worked, and what it represents. And doing that work and playing that active role allowed us to continue to get lucky. We got lucky that we never lost our Bitcoin when any of these major exchanges got hacked or blew up. But it's only because we put the work in to understand that in Bitcoin, not your keys means not your coins. Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system that was specifically designed to allow you to look after your wealth without trusting a third-party institution not to rip you off. And we know they often do. We understood that the best way to keep your Bitcoin safe is to keep it under your control in full self-custody. We also got lucky that we never got dragged into any of these shitcoin scams, right? We didn't buy Ethereum and Dogecoin and all this rubbish, and we also managed to swerve. I need to point it that way, that's what it is. We also managed to swerve the ICO bubble, and we didn't waste any of our money on ridiculous NFTs. But again, it's only because we put the work in to study Bitcoin that we could recognize that these were just centralized affinity scams, and they're actually just total garbage. We also got lucky that we were never shaken out by multiple bear markets where the Bitcoin price would drop by as much as 87%. But here's the thing, there's nothing lucky about that, right? If you want to hold through that kind of volatility, the only way you can do it is by learning a lot about Bitcoin and developing true conviction. And all of this continued luck that we had over the years meant that by the end of it all, we were holding 25 Bitcoin, which today is worth roughly over $2.5 million. But I didn't come here to get on stage and tell you a story about how me and my dad got fabulously rich, because, well, A, that would be a really weird thing to do, and B, because I couldn't come and talk to you about luck if I didn't also intimately understand the nature of bad luck. And we've had some run-ins, because I'm sorry to say that me and my dad don't have that 25 Bitcoin anymore, and it's not because we spent it on Lamborghinis and cocaine. Let me explain, well, not all of it, but let me explain what happened. Back in November 2023, me and my dad, after 10 patient years of hodling our Bitcoin, decided we'd go on the trip of a lifetime to the home of Bitcoin itself, El Salvador. And we had a fantastic time checking out Bitcoin Beach, using Bitcoin as money, and we stopped in at the Adopting Bitcoin conference there as well, where we got the chance to see some amazing projects, we listened to some great speakers, and we got really fired up and motivated, as you often do at these kind of events. So we rushed home on the last night of the conference to our Airbnb in El Salvador, all hyped up and ready to keep working on a little Bitcoin project of our own that we've been tinkering with over the years. But this is where this trip of a lifetime, I'm sorry to say, turned into a total nightmare. Because it was in that moment, thousands of miles from home, that we discovered we'd been hacked, and our entire stack of 25 Bitcoin had been stolen, never to be seen again. I think it's probably fair to say that's quite a stroke of bad luck, right? But look, I'm not here to talk about the hack, and I've given you a really abridged version of that story. If you are interested in all the gory details, if you find me on Twitter, or if you head to the Bitcoin Prague YouTube channel, I gave a talk at their conference where I take you through all the excruciating details of what happened. And it might be worth your time to check it out, because you'll be able to learn from our mistakes, make sure you don't make the same mistakes, and keep your Bitcoin more secure. But today I'm here to talk about luck. The only thing I'll say about the trip is that, of course, this trip of a lifetime turned into a very harrowing experience. The best way to explain it is, imagine 10 years of delayed gratification, 10 years of all the work and energy you've put into every project, and all your future plans just, boom, evaporating in an instant. It's a really visceral experience. The best way I could describe it is it kind of feels like someone's stolen 10 years of your life. Really, really savage. But despite that crazy experience only happening less than a couple of years ago, you might be surprised to learn that I actually consider myself to be the luckiest man in Bitcoin. And I'd love to tell you why. Well, first of all, when we discovered we got hacked, I was actually due to get married just a couple of months later. That was an interesting phone call home. But despite nuking my entire net worth, she was crazy enough to still say yes. So what I can tell you, gentlemen, is finding the right woman will improve your life way more than a giant stack of Bitcoin. I can promise you that. The other reason I feel extremely lucky is the amazing Bitcoin community that I get to be a part of. When everyone had heard what had happened to us, I was inundated with messages of support, people reaching out, trying to get us back on our feet. And boy, do I feel lucky and fortunate that that happened. Because in the 2 years since we got hacked, Bitcoin has 5x'd in price again. So I am so grateful for all those people that helped us keep our head in the game and get straight back to it. I also feel really lucky that I got to share that experience in a talk at Bitcoin Prague, because so many Bitcoiners reached out later and said, wow, Rick, that story scared the pants off me. And now I've taken some significant steps to improve my own security. So the silver lining is we lost our Bitcoin, but other Bitcoiners became more secure. And also, amidst all this chaos, and believe me, it was chaos, I continued to get lucky. I managed to land myself an elusive Bitcoin job for an amazing company called the Bitcoin Way, who coincidentally teach people how to self-custody their Bitcoin, how to run a node, how to improve their online privacy so that you don't experience the same thing that we did. I guess that's fate. And I also feel crazy lucky to have met people like Ivan and the rest of the amazing BTC Balkans team, because they put in a crazy amount of effort, guys, to put on these conferences so we can all have a really, really fun weekend. But there's one more reason I feel super, super lucky, a little personal, but I'd love to share it, and that is that in 9 weeks, me and my wife are going to welcome, sorry, I got a bit choked up, a brand new little hodler into our lives. So all I can tell you, listen, is I'm a lucky, lucky man, right? But listen, that would, let's keep going. Let's talk about, well, what is the secret to getting lucky? Well, what I've learned over those 12 insane years is that Bitcoin lets you make your own luck, right? The more you lean into it, the luckier you will get. Now, you have to play an active role. You're going to have to figure out how to use it. You're going to have to figure out how to keep it safe and all that good stuff. But believe me, it really is a cheat code. The more you welcome Bitcoin into your life, the better your life will become. Now, that would be a quite neat little ending to this talk, right? But I like to try my luck, and we're nowhere near done getting lucky just yet, because this story is actually, today, coming full circle, because I mentioned that we found out we'd been hacked when we were working on our own little Bitcoin project. And yeah, me and my dad, we're honey badgers, right? We didn't give up on that project. We kept working on it. And with some help of some very talented friends, shout out to my man Chris, the best designer in Bitcoin, by the way, we've actually finished it. So it gives me real pleasure and excitement to share with you what we've built. And it's kind of crazy. We've built a Bitcoin-powered, provably fair lottery system that is powered by the Lightning Network. This is where you go, ooh. Okay, yeah, okay, whoa. Well, hear me out first and see if you like it. The first question you might have is, Rick, what the hell is a provably fair lottery? So I'll try and explain it simply. You might go out and buy yourself a lottery ticket, or rather, lots of people go out and buy lots of lottery tickets, and it raises a huge prize fund before a winner is chosen. A winner is chosen at random. Now, it's really important that we know that this selection process is truly random. Otherwise, you wouldn't play, right? If you thought someone on the inside was going to win the lottery, if it wasn't a fair draw. But the problem with traditional lotteries is all the trust required to make them work. Because to generate this randomness, they will use things like a ball machine, right? We've all seen those on lotteries. Or if it's an online lottery, they might use a random number generator. But the problem with the ball machine is you have to trust that nobody's tampered with the machine or weighted the balls, or even that the live stream you're watching is live and not pre-recorded, or, I mean, in 2025, that it's not AI or something, right? And a random number generator will give you a random number, but it's very difficult to verify that it was truly random after the fact. And being Bitcoiners, we don't like to trust, do we? We much prefer to verify. So with the lottery that we've built, we don't use a ball machine, and we don't use an RNG, we use something way better. We use Bitcoin's blockchain. Because nobody can predict the hash of a future block, but crucially, everybody can verify its authenticity. So now, instead of a ball machine, we have a random number that we can use to select our winner. So I'll explain how it works. First of all, if you want to enter our Bitcoin lottery, the first thing you have to do is not give us any identifiable information. All you need to do is give us an on-chain Bitcoin payout address. And that's just the place we will send the winnings if you're selected as the lucky winner. The next thing that you have to do is choose how many entries you'd like in the draw. And once you've done that, you've given us your Bitcoin payout address, you've chosen how many entries you want, we will send you a Lightning invoice so that you can buy those entries. And once you've paid your invoice, your Bitcoin payout address will be entered into the lottery, and you'll find your Bitcoin payout address in the list of entries. Now, if you bought one entry, your Bitcoin address will appear in the list once. If you bought 2 entries, twice, 3 entries, 3 times, and so on. And once we've done that, we've collected our entries, we then need to use Bitcoin to choose our winner. So I'll give you a very sort of overarching run-through of how that works. Let's imagine the lottery opens today at 10 a.m. and we start selling our entries over the Lightning Network. As we sell them, the entries come in, we start adding people's Bitcoin payout address to our list of entries until the lottery closes a couple of days later, or however long you want to run it. All the while, Bitcoin's blockchain just chugging along in the background, producing new blocks. At this moment in time, when the lottery's closed and we've received all our entries, what we do is we collate, sort, and crucially, timestamp the list of entries. Because that lets everybody know that after that specific date and time, the entries could not have been tampered with, the list couldn't have been changed. Once that's happened, we then share this list of entries with everyone. So we'll publish it on our website, we'll broadcast it on our public Telegram channel so everybody has the timestamped list of entries. And then we can tell everyone, guys, we've got the entries, they're timestamped. The very next block in Bitcoin's blockchain is going to be what we use to choose our winner. And so we wait until the winning block shows up and we have the hash to choose the winner from our timestamped list of entries. And I'll explain briefly how that works too. So let's imagine this is our winning block. That's the hash of the winning block. And as you can see, it's a number full of numbers and letters, right? So the first thing that we need to do is just convert that into decimal, because then we can do some basic arithmetic with it. And then all we have to do is divide the decimal version of the hash of the block by the number of entries, or the number of people in the lottery. And let's say, for this example, that that's just 100 entrants. So the question is, how many times does 100 go into that number? And the answer is this many times, but crucially, with a remainder of 42. And that remainder, ladies and gentlemen, is our magic number. On the list of entries, line entry number 42, that Bitcoin payout address is the winner of the lottery. So we go back to our list of entries, we scroll through. This animation could be faster. We get to line 42, and that's the Bitcoin payout address. That's our winner. Now, everybody has a time-stamped list of entries. Everybody knows the hash of the block. So you can do the calculation yourself and see that we did arrive at the correct winner. Now, what about claiming your prize? Well, this is kind of nice too, because if you play a normal lottery, if you lose your ticket, and believe me, it happens, there's loads of stories about people losing $1 million lottery tickets, you're out of luck. But with ours, well, when you entered the lottery, you entered with your Bitcoin payout address. So actually, we're already in a position to pay you out. We have your Bitcoin payout address, you won the lottery. All you have to do is sit back, wait for the slats to flow in your direction. Lovely stuff. And of course, the whole point of this is that you can verify everything was completely fair and completely transparent. So everything gets published on our website, everything gets updated and shared on our public Telegram channel, so you will receive, like everyone else, a time-stamped list of all the entrants, so we all have the same list. We can all, of course, see the block height and the hash of the winning block, so that we can all take that number, which means we can all do the same calculation and all arrive at the same answer as to who was the winning entry line of this lottery. And then we take our entries through the Lightning Network, because that allows us to sell tickets for $1 and this sort of thing, which would be maybe more complicated on-chain if fees go high, right? You don't want to sell a $1 ticket with a £5 transaction fee. That doesn't make much sense. But we actually pay out on-chain to the Bitcoin payout address you gave us. And that allows us to share the transaction ID of us paying out the winner, so you can all verify that I didn't just run off with the money, right? And of course, if we're doing this to raise money for a good cause, as we typically would do with a lottery, we can also share the transaction ID of us paying the charity, so that you can see everything was above board. And that, guys, leaves us with a provably fair lottery, a really transparent system for, I don't know, funding charity, funding all sorts of interesting things. So I want to tell you why we got so excited about this idea, right? Well, the first reason is, look at traditional lotteries. They're so antiquated, right? They're using paper tickets, dedicated point-of-sale machines. It's really clunky, really expensive. It's just not very modern, is it? Whereas with our lottery, well, we've built it so that it runs on an API. You can plug this thing into any website, any mobile app, and we're actually quite a far way down the process of just actually making the whole thing run with an automated Telegram bot. So imagine that. This gets me so hyped up, because I'm thinking, man, imagine a global lottery that just runs on Telegram. Don't think we've ever seen that before. Of course, we're excited that it's really transparent, right? Traditional lotteries are like a black hole. They raise hundreds of millions for like the Euro Millions and stuff. But do you know where that money's going? Do you know how many tickets were sold, how many entries they were? Do you know how much the CEO is getting paid? Maybe £500,000 to pull balls out of a machine. Seems a little much to me. So we can do it faster, slicker, and more transparent. I also have this idea in my head that, hey, maybe this could be like a really useful orange pilling tool. Because how many times have you spoken to someone to introduce them to Bitcoin and they've said, oh, nah, man, I've missed the boat, it's too expensive, it's too late for me. Well, you can say, well, listen, you don't necessarily have to buy some Bitcoin. You could just maybe play the Bitcoin lottery and win some Bitcoin. But crucially, to do that, you're going to have a Lightning wallet, you're going to have an on-chain Bitcoin address, and you're going to have to send some transactions, right? So you're actually going to have to interact with the network. I think it might be quite a fun way to onboard people. It also excites me because it's global, right? Most lotteries are trapped within the jurisdiction they operate within. But a Bitcoin doesn't have borders. You could have a global lottery. So the scale that you could achieve with something like this is quite impressive. And finally, I think as well, we could help certain nation states become more sovereign. Now, don't quote me on this, but through some light research, I'm fairly confident that the El Salvadorian lottery is actually run by a company in Canada, which means there's a Canadian company extracting value from the El Salvadorian people, when actually all they're trying to do is use their lottery to raise money to pay for bridges, schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. Well, Bukele, right? Man, listen, we'll give you the software, Naib. You can have it. It's free. You can have it. You can run it. Please run the world's first Bitcoin lottery. And when you combine those two ideas, I think it gets even more interesting. Because at the moment, when Naib runs a lottery, it's only El Salvadorians playing. So he's raising money for his infrastructure projects, but only from El Salvadorians. If he ran a global Bitcoin lottery, he can raise money to fund the things he wants to do in his country from the whole world and get wealthy nations and players playing as well. But the thing that actually gets me really excited more than anything else is I like the idea that Bitcoin fixes things. You'll have heard countless Bitcoiners, myself included, we always run around saying Bitcoin fixes this, Bitcoin fixes that. But it's often quite theoretical in nature, right? We talk about, okay, a sound monetary standard will solve this problem in society and so on, but it might be decades away. I get really excited about the idea of, well, maybe you could spot a problem in society that you want to fix. So you spin up a Bitcoin lottery, you sell some tickets, have a little bit of fun, and actually you raise some money and take direct action to fix something that you think is broken. So, yeah, that's the lottery in a nutshell. And look, it's a fairly short talk today because actually I just want to get straight to it. It's fun to talk about a lottery, and it's fun to talk about all this stuff, but we wanted to go one step further. So I have one more question for everyone in the room, which is, do you feel lucky? Well, do ya? Cypherpunk? Because we've actually launched it today. So if you follow this QR code, you can get to the BTC Balkans prize draw. You might see leaflets flying around all over the place as well, where you can go. But go to the website, right? You can learn more about how it works. There's a more detailed explanation. Entries are open. You can buy one entry for 1,000 sats. It's about $1. People have already been playing today. It's not a big, crazy lottery. Don't get too excited. I think there's maybe $50 in the prize pot at the moment. But we're also trying to raise a bit of money to support the Bitcoin circular economy in Bulgaria, right? So 50% of the prize pot will go to the winner, and 50% of the prize pot will go to the guys who have a stand outside, who are trying to onboard businesses and merchants and get things really moving in Bulgaria. And it's also worth me saying, we're not taking a cut, we're not making any money out of this, we're just doing it purely for the culture and to have a bit of fun and try and push Bitcoin forward. So that's us, guys. The draw is open until Monday night, so you'll know by Tuesday morning who the winner is, and we'll have made all the payments and shared everything. Thank you for entering, my man. Good luck to you. I won't be entering the lottery, by the way, because it wouldn't be fair for the luckiest man in Bitcoin to enter his own lottery, right? That would be crazy. And I just want to end the talk with actually, if I could get choked up again, but this is the reason I'm the luckiest man in Bitcoin, because I got to go, fucking hell, man up, Rick, come on. I got to go on this insane journey with my dad, who, by the way, is the one who orange-pilled me. So instead of a millennial orange-pilling his boomer parents, my dad orange-pilled me. He's a software developer, right? And he's hated the banks for a lot longer than most people. So when it came along, it made perfect sense to him. But what a crazy adventure. Yeah, I'd love you to play the lottery. Let's raise some money for the guys outside trying to push Bitcoin forward. Thank you very much.